They might have gone to PMs or something. They definitely are both here. But we'll be getting started within the minute, I suspect. Thank you very much, everyone's supports. Hope I'm filling in the gigantic shoes left behind of Roddy fairly well while he's gone. Thanks, ZombieGrub, for the excellent hype cast, the analysis. Any special touch to StarCraft 2? All the strategy nerds. Big ups, much love. Thank you very much, D-Rock. And thank you, Helm's Deep States, for the 24 months. Dutch clog shoes. The big Dutch clog shoes, exactly. I saw how they were made. I took myself on a little journey to a quaint little town outside of Rotterdam. Outside of Amsterdam, more so, I guess, but... yeah. And they had windmills, and they had apparently transplanted all of the old-fashioned Dutch houses to that village to ensure the survival of the houses and the old type of architecture, because they were getting overwhelmed by big city buildings and whatnot. We have the lobby set up, so let's start up not only the bets, but also try and get at least some adless ad action. Unfortunately, the Twitch dashboard defaults to blanking out the ability to press the ad button. You have to refresh and then press the ad button. It's just a little annoying, but, you know, not the biggest of deals. Have you seen Jackie Chan fighting them? You know, I don't think I have. Keep pressing the wrong one. Here we go. The final match. The final best of 5 of the night. Get your bets in. Who is going to win? Will it be this guy in the bottom left representing BIG, ShoWTimE? Or will it be this guy in the top right, Blue Zerg, Team Liquid's Elazer? I know someone mentioned what they think of when they hear the name ShoWTimE. I always think of the opening of the movie Paprika, where a clown pops out of a car and says, "It's showtime." What do you guys think when you hear ShoWTimE? There must be other references. I can't ask if what you guys think of when you hear Elazer, because I'm pretty sure it's just a made-up word. Pretty sure. But it is pretty cool. And, you know, you think of lasers, I guess. Freaking laser beams. If only you played Protoss. Doesn't work with Zerg, does it? But we have another best of 5, where I believe we're going to have one very aggressive player versus the more macro defensive player. I mean, there's always a chance that it gets a little screwy. ShoWTimE is the one that aggresses, and then Laser defends, but it's, you know, that's absurd. Never mind, that's not gonna happen. It's most likely not gonna happen. But this time around, no one who was not, I suppose, born and built in good old Europe on the European ladder. We do have Elazer from Poland. ShoWTimE German. But as far as the aggressive versus defensive, definitely in line with the rest of the big brain bouts, of which quite a few of them had a couple of interesting games. I think the ones that are sticking out in my brain are definitely the late game PVZ, game 2, where the carriers somehow managed to win that one. That was kind of crazy. We're moving away from that. So we're heading into the last series, where the most recognizable names are playing. Always happy to see some of the up-and-coming names, and certainly some of the very fun, unique players that were displayed in the earlier best of 5s. But Now we're down to the players that you would very much be likely to see in the later stages of the European regionals, as well as perhaps even the later stages of some of the international tournaments. Although both players have not had spectacular results most recently, we know that both of them have actually been champions in the past and have certainly reached the likes of even top 4 of some of the bigger tournaments. Elazer, to me, still has the he has the reputation of defeating Dark, not the reputation. He has the highlight moment. That's what I'm trying to say. He has the highlight moment to me of defeating Dark when Dark was the uncontested foreigner killer back in 2017. So that's always going to stick in my brain, but he's also had very good performances. It can be a little hit or miss, and I know Elazer has also expressed some disinterest against Protoss before. But it's funny because as soon as he did that, 2 adepts go down for 4 drones. As soon as it felt like he was saying that he doesn't like facing Protoss, he got put up against a bunch of Protoss and actually did fine against them. So that was a while ago. I'm not sure what his feelings are on the matchup right now, but that was a little annoying. It kind of turned around, however. The drones getting the surround with the Lings and the Queen still supporting meant that only 4 drones went down. I think it's quite manageable. ShoWTimE is living up to his expectation, which is a Nexus, Oracles, Gateways. Could he throw in a little Resident Glaives build? He could, but you know what? I don't think he will. It's the opposite, but that would have been funny if the German guy was aggressive. No, ShoWTimE is very defensive. The line from the Valkyrie from Brood War, she says, ShoWTimE? She does, doesn't she? In almost the exact same cadence as the line from the movie that I referenced. I kind of forgot about that entirely. Imagine Zerg evolving to shoot laser beams. Why don't they? I mean, Abathur's all about taking the good things. Does anyone argue that lasers are not a good thing? Eh? Come on, Abathur. Do your job. Oracle's still trying to find some damage. So far unsuccessful. Elazer might have been a little late and a little haphazard on the defense of the Adepts, but I would say that it basically was a decent defense. It has now had some very good defense against the Oracles. I think only 1 more drone went down. ShoWTimE is actually very, very good with controlling his Oracles and his Adepts. He's been, I think, a fan of this recently, and by recently I mean the last few months, but of using the Oracles and the Adepts combined together. Spoke too soon. The Adepts shade in and die. Was that? I feel like that wasn't really the plan there. But it might have looked like an open opportunity. Because I was going to say, he's been very good about using the Oracles and the Adepts combined together. So not diving with either one, but rather threatening with both and then clearing up creep spread, leaving the Adepts back outside the creep spread while the Oracles dive in. And then when they try to take down the Adepts, the Oracles come racing back to defend the Adepts. Like, he basically was very good with controlling the Zerg. But actually decided to jump in with the Adepts this time around, which didn't look super successful, but it looks like the Oracles finally found their success. 9 more drones dead, and then he used the weak Oracle to go back in. I don't think that was intentional, but it lives, and he recalls them out. All 3 Oracles are still alive. 1 in the top right injured, but alive. 7 Adepts have been killed, but now with 13 drones killed as well, it's looking a lot more even on the resources lost. Still more gas for ShoWTimE lost, though, which is the rare resource. 6 gas is up and running for the Protoss, however, as well as Charge, +1, Warp Prism, Templar Archives, Gateways finishing up. ShoWTimE certainly macroing well enough. Elazer, having lost 13 drones, is still finding himself on 4 bases, 83 workers. With +1 melee on the way. Banliness as well, but interestingly enough, a fairly fast infestation pit. I was thinking for a Okay, finally the work goes down. I am so shocked that ShoWTimE did. He did it twice now. He went back in with a weakened Oracle for seemingly not a lot. Yeah. One Oracle death, however, after killing a total of 19 drones, I think is somewhat acceptable. Just like, yeah, little too much. So yeah, I thought Elazer was going to go into a big old mid-game attack. Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager. Hopefully it wins. But no, he is not only not necessarily going in, like he's not even going into an attack. He's, okay, well currently he's attacking, but I don't think this is really real though. It certainly doesn't feel like the biggest problem ShoWTimE is going to have. Elazer is not maxed out, and the army on the front lines is, I think, relatively easy to deal with. So, yeah. He's not going for the big ol' attack. He is emphasizing the hive, and we could even see him perhaps emphasize something as slow as Broodlords. Although, I think if he was going to do that, he would already have a Spire on the way. So, he's going to go Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager. He's going to have the benefit of Vipers, take out those Disruptors that ShoWTimE has gotten. And this is apparently before Centrifugal Hooks will even finish. ShoWTimE is very well situated on 4 bases as Elazer grabs his 5th and his 6th. ShoWTimE does know about the hive. That Oracle's still around in the top right. Could always dip back in and see what's going on. We got ourselves a late game ZVP yet again. And I was not expecting this, but it was not really either player's fault. I mean, both players decided to play into a macro game, Elazer included. I would still suspect that Elazer does not play super passive into Broodlord style. I would still suspect that Elazer even gets overly aggressive at some points and takes on more than he should, despite being on hive technology, 6 bases and 85 drones. I think the way that he'll use his units are still, yeah, very aggressive. And certainly as long as you're maxed out on Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager, you're going to have to use your army before you move on to something else. Baneling's rolling in, not really getting the best results so far, but seeing as it is an open opportunity, finally colliding with the probes. Lings and Roaches thought they might also be able to do something, but the army was responding. A little bit of an army fight over here. Baneling's caught in a humongous stasis trap, now hitting Archons. Gonna try and go after the Nexus, if anything. They go after the Nexus, pile on, depower the shield battery, and then the rest of the army is gonna try and kill the Nexus, which are getting awfully close, awfully close, awfully close. Nexus is gonna fall. It is gonna fall. 100%, alongside a handful of Archons. The question now is Elazer capable of defending the counterattack? He just used up almost all of his army in those 2 attacks. One on the probe line, one on the Nexus. And while the attack did also manage to grab a handful of army units, it certainly didn't grab all of them. But I suppose it did grab some of the anchors of a Protoss army, the Archons, the things that can lead the charge, hopefully soak up the Banelings, and at the very least, defend the High Templars, actually, right? Big old balls, cotton balls right in front of the High Templars, hopefully stopping them from getting hit by the Banelings. So without them, ShoWTimE looked a little shy about moving out. He moved out for a hot second just to clear up some creep and perhaps realize, you know what, it's been too long, the guy probably already maxed out. And he's not wrong. The Elazer maxed out rather quickly. Still focusing on Ling, Baneling, Roach. I can't say Ravagers anymore because he's really not going into Ravagers, but Ling, Baneling for sure, 100%. And is only now adding on a Spire, so maybe in the future a transition to a greater Spire. But if I had to guess, again, I think Elazer would not do something like defend into Broodlords. I think he would aggress, and then hopefully when ShoWTimE is still reeling from all the attacks, that's when they'll slip in the Broodlords for hopefully a 1-2 punch. That's usually how Elazer does it. Lots of Zealots being, frankly, sacrificed to the top base. They did chop down some Lings, but the overall result is, I think, unfavorable for the Protoss. That was a lot of Zealots to lose. 17 in total have died. Oh, more probes as well, as the Nexus also falls. Elazer might not have done the thing I was expecting, the big old mid-game attack, but he finds himself comfortably into a late-game, at least, economy and late-game technology, but not Vipers, not Broodlords, not Ultras, just upgrades, and has used it very effectively. It's like the thing I was imagining, but just kind of like shifted a little bit later into the game. And Elazer could get Vipers if necessary, is one thing I'm looking at. The Disruptors might still be giving him some trouble, even though the Disruptors are not the main part of the army. Now it's about those Archons and Storms once again. Storm trying to preempt the Banelings. Amazing Storm at the end of the day. Banelings even rolled back into it. Nexus for sure not coming up anytime soon. The Lings take down the last remnants of even some production. But ShoWTimE is on the road here. He's killed a hatchery. He's looking for more as he moves forward. He's going to find half a dozen Overlords. Storm still coming down on chokes on Banelings. Excellent War Prism control. ShoWTimE looking for that one major endgame fight to actually win the game. Banelings and Roaches and Lings coming in from every direction. Take out the High Templars. Roaches still alive, but maybe not in high enough numbers, especially because the War Prism lives on. We're reinforced with a couple of crucial Stalkers as the last couple of Zerg units look to overwhelm the Protoss army. The supplies are getting awfully close here. Elazer doubling the supply, but what type of supply is it? It's stuck in the eggs currently. ShoWTimE also does have 4 bases back up and running, but what he doesn't have is an answer to Cracklings. That is the humongous problem. Elazer finally building enough Lings to come in and overwhelm. Without the Storms and the Archons, the rest of the Protoss army had no chance against the +3 Adrenal Glandlings. They're pretty freaking good against Stalkers and Immortals. Also fantastic at killing Nexus. ShoWTimE got this up and running, never got the defenses, never got the probes on it, and now is lost it, is back to his original 3 bases that are going to mine out very, very soon. Main base already mined out, Natural getting there, 3rd base oversaturated, and Elazer did take some damage himself. He lost this base, he lost drones, and he did certainly trade out a lot of army, but he clearly has the better chance moving forward. 4 bases about to be 5? Oh, that's creep spread. About to be 6 at some point in time. 72 drones. The Vipers are finally on the way, and the army supply remains heavily in favor of the Zerg, as we even have some of the earlier static defenses. Oh Lord, that was almost a really good shot. Helping against some mild harassment of ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE's not going to give up too soon, but unfortunately the case is Elazer has more than enough economy to rebuild. If Elazer had been brought down to 40 drones, I think this is a very questionable game. I don't know who wins. But as Elazer remains on +70, 74, I think very recently. ShoWTimE can't move out, but he also doesn't have a very good chance of defending either. I suppose the supplies don't look all that odd for a PvZ. 80 supply difference can happen, but usually that's an 80 supply difference because the guy has pure roaches. In this case, Elazer has Vipers and Cracklings and Ultras. So, yeah, overcharge. Not going to be able to save any of these units. These are Cracklings. ShoWTimE is going to lose access to his Natural by the looks of it, but once again on the warpath, moving across the map, hoping that his last engagement will be a fantastic one. Elazer has a lot of time to buy, however. Doesn't necessarily have to take the fight right here. Has plenty of supply, has plenty of abducts as well. More things being abducted into the heart of the Zerg army for the full surround. And this is ShoWTimE having to tap out. Despite his insistence. There we go, GG. Elazer with a game 1 victory. Heading into late game, kind of. He got that high fairly quickly. He got his upgrades fairly quickly, but really it was all for a more advanced, aggressive attack. It's just like, I'm going to do the thing that you would usually expect in the mid game, but I'm going to do it in the kind of later stages with more upgrades, more economy, and the potential for technology, which we didn't actually see until the very last second, but still. The Vipers and Ultras did eventually make an appearance. So, it was well played. It was well played. I didn't think ShoWTimE was playing poorly at all, but he clearly started to get a little, not bamboozled, but he just was a bit late to the parties and then lost all of his probes, lost his Nexus, forced really to do that all in. Because if he doesn't do the all in, not the last one that we saw that was doomed to fail, but the one previous, where he lost his 4th and was on 3 bases. If he hadn't done that, hadn't have done that. English is hard. Then it's probably the case that he could have built up to another late game 4 bases. But then Elazer would have had the playground. Elazer would have been on 6, 7 bases, 80 plus drones, hive technology, spire done, working on a greater spire. And then ShoWTimE would have not been able to transition over into Stargates. So, because I think that is something that could have happened. I think in a different game, a different player, a slightly different situation, ShoWTimE actually just stays at home and is like, okay, I'm just going to try and build up again. But then the issue is, how good is your macro after all that damage you've taken? Is Elazer just going to beat you at the end of the day anyway? The top right, it is Elazer. Bottom left of altitude, it is ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE's second to last push was almost very promising. If his army was a little more collected together, perhaps it would have been good enough. Kind of got spread out, and not in a good way necessarily. Because it is interesting. I think if we rewind it and looked at that battle, there'd be a lot of little things that went either way, actually. Because as much as ShoWTimE was starting to lose control of like his disruptors, for instance, they weren't protected when everything was spread out like that, or his High Templars ended up being vulnerable as the Banelings raced towards them. There was also situations in which Elazer's 3 roaches were getting overwhelmed by 6 zealots, and you can't micro literally everything at once. So it was really all over the place. It was like some of the battle was going well for one and some for another, and then the defender's advantage really kicked in hard for Elazer. And a ShoWTimE not able to reinforce also obviously very much hurt him. Had he had time and resources to warp in not just 5 Stalkers, which was one of his last warp-ins, but also 4 Zealots or, 2 High Templars and morph into an Archon, he might have had a little more to play around with on the offense. Maybe the Cracklings would not have overwhelmed him. I suspect they still would have, but then what could have happened was that the Warp Prism could have picked up the Archon or the Zealots as the Stalkers escaped, and then it would have continued harassing. But ShoWTimE, when he was pushed back, he was completely pushed back. His Warp Prism didn't do anything until he tried a little bit of Disruptor harassment later on. So, yeah. Lots of things could have changed the way that game played out. Elazer. Going for more of a late game mass Ling Baneling Roach army. It was late game upgrades, low technology otherwise. I wonder if he's going to do it again. It is another big map on altitude, so it's very possible. But you cannot just assume he'll do the same type of aggressive Zerg play. There's the mid-game attacks. There's the even earlier all-ins, which I don't think will happen here on this map, but no one would possibly do it on altitude, and that's why he does it. Elazer's no stranger to the Overlord drops with Roaches and Queens. He's no stranger to Nidus Worm play, although probably not something that he's most well known for. I'd say if I thought of a Zerg player who goes for Niduses, I'd think of Dark. And then you do have the good old-fashioned kind of mid-game dedicated attack. 4 bases, 70 drones, Ling Baneling Roach Ravager. Needs to do damage, can run out of steam, but is not completely all in. It is a Stargate opener for ShoWTimE, so we're not missing anything important while I talk about other things. Elazer's Overlord getting into a nice position to do some scouting. Because you still want to scout. I mean, you could assume ShoWTimE's going to go into triple Oracle, 3rd base every time, and he'd probably be right about that. Probably. But then the question would be more so the follow-up. Is it Blink versus Charge? Is it Archon Charge Out Attack? Which I don't think I've seen ShoWTimE do recently, but it could be. Is it some type of like 2 or 3 gas dedicated attack from the Protoss? Again, kind of almost like a fake 3rd. These are things that ShoWTimE can do. And I would say actually Altitude's a fairly popular map for the 4 gases, not 3 gas version, but the 4 gas proxy gateway stalker pressure on the 3rd. I feel like we see that a lot. What we're also seeing is a lot of Zergs, once they realize they're not being resident englaved, going into that melee. And the melee, with an appropriate number of lings, does quite well against those early stalker attacks. Lair coming down already. No evolution chamber, no roach warren. ShoWTimE is moving out with his adepts. I was trying to talk about some of his previous uses of Oracle adepts being more on the reserved side. It ended up being kind of moot because his adepts were aggressive. And yet again, he does choose to be aggressive with them. I can see why here. I witnessed the adept shade. I saw what ShoWTimE saw, and I can see where he thought he would find damage. But at the end of the day, those adepts still weren't all that impressive. Neither were the oracles, as both of them actually very rich. Kill the... Wait, no, really? Is that out of range, or did I not see it? I think it may have been out of range, and the freaking terrain like kind of like dips, so it doesn't look like it is. Anyways, the recall worked. 3 oracles still alive. Very, very injured, but they are alive. I'm wondering if that's not seeable. There's some weird things on the edges of some of these maps. Some of them are understandable. They just look a little weird. Oh, Nidus Worm is on the way. Ha! Wow. I was like, I don't think Elazer's that much of a Nidus Worm guy. It's awfully dark. Yeah, okay. Of course he can still do Nidus Worms. And it is going to be Ling Queen Nidus Worm. Trying to go for the Overwhelm first and foremost on the 3rd Nexus. Doesn't find an opportunity, but what he found was the overcharge in the shield battery. So I'll talk more about the maps and terrain later on. Much more importantly, Elazer going for the aggression. ShoWTimE, does he realize what is up? Certainly has in the last 30 seconds, 20 seconds. Shield batteries and cannons now on the way. Could be too late. Ling's on top of the probe line, but there's Zealots, there's a Sentry, there's Oracles, and the shield battery, while not overcharged, did still have some juice to support that. 10 probes go down. Oracle's almost out of energy. One of the fresher ones dies to the Queens, and Elazer's aggression might just be keen here to win game for 2. Cannons are going to get destroyed. There we go. And Oracles could again fall here as the Oracles, they're better off fleeing. Wait another day, hopefully help out somewhere else, and it looks like helping out somewhere else is what they're going to have to do, but they're on such low energy, they cannot support for very long. Wall completely gone. I believe they have StarCraft score as well, so no Stalkers or Sentries being warped in. Zealots do not have charge, they don't have +1, they are not particularly special, and ShoWTimE's defense coming in probably too late to actually win this game. ShoWTimE will have a slight breather, but only a small one. Nidus from the main base, Nidus from the natural, Elazer repositioning and taking advantage of a static defenseless main base. That cannon just now finishing, but before, after the shield battery is actually killed. That's it, yeah, that is it. That is it. GG, Elazer 2-0. Very convincing second game. There's that supreme cheese. Well, it's not the supreme cheese, but it's one of the dirtier ones. And ShoWTimE is now already on his last life. When I looked at the best of 5s today, I wasn't sure about any of the other best of 5s. I'm going to be honest. Like, I couldn't actually see how that was going to go. Oh, well, I think I would have actually guessed that Eric was going to win. I think if you actually asked me, I think I would have. But now I just sound like I'm trying to be smart. But this one, this best of 5, I would have said, oh, that's very fair. You know, like the games themselves might be one-sided, but I think it'll go like, it'll beat Bop. 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. Yeah. Not that Elazer would steamroll 3-0, which has not happened yet, but the momentum is certainly there for the Zerg player. Certainly. Let's see if Elazer can come up with a 1-2-3 that can just end ShoWTimE's best of 5 before it feels like it's really begun. In the bottom rights for BIG, he is ShoWTimE. In the top left, the Dragon Scales, we do have Team Liquid's Elazer. Possibly the last game in the Big Brain Bouts. I was hosting this week as Roddy is attending the wedding of his very dear friend, Benjamin Demu. I want to thank Basilisk again for letting me come on and do this, have some fun, put it on my channel as well. It was very kind of them. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, even though there's no replacing Roddy. Absolutely not. I hope I did an okay job temporarily doing so. The players have given us some fun games today. If you missed out in the first 3 best of 5s, there was at least, I would say, 2 or 3 recommended games to check out. And I know everyone, for the most part, really looking forward to the headliners, Elazer vs. ShoWTimE. And like I said, I would figure this would have been very close. But we once again are maybe on the brink of a 3-0. Some of the earlier ones were as well. 3-0 and 2-3-1 so far, I think. Elazer is going for an interesting build. He did go for a hatch first, but on a very low drone counts. And then his pool came down at 15, I believe. So, no gas as of yet. ShoWTimE... probably keen on the timing. Maybe keen on the timing. And this probe's right up on in there. It's seeing everything. So if there is going to be something aggressive from this, ShoWTimE should be a little more mindful of it. It can't be super aggressive though, because there's no gas. So... I mean, by aggressive, I suppose I mean 6 lings trying to kill this pylon. That's as much action as we're going to get. But that is something that can shock and awe even the best pros, especially if this probe got in, saw a hatchery, and went, oh, my job's done. Bye-bye. Then suddenly 6 lings appear, and your adept is out in the middle. It's very awkward. It's not game ending, but it's very awkward. But of course, the adept will be out, and the pylon is certainly safe, as it is only 2 lings coming across right now. Elazer just grabbing a 3rd hatchery afterwards. But yeah, I did want to talk about the... There's some maps I was saying where it makes sense, it looks weird, but then you realize what's going on, and you go, oh, okay. It's not bad or improperly balanced or anything. But there's at least one map, and I want to say it's altitude. So not this one. Yeah, I don't think this one has any suspicious terrain. I think it's altitude, in which, like, one area, some of the forest, some of the pine trees are vision blockers, when I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to be. They're like the, you know, miscellaneous hubbub pine trees. And one of them is even kind of close to the base, of which, like, a Liberator or a Banshee could abuse or something. Obviously, it's not a big enough deal that I've tracked it. I'm like, there might be a thing on some map that does something, but I have noticed it when in my own games, and I'm very annoyed whenever I have to notice it. 2 adepts just continuing to check around. ShoWTimE has been rather cavalier with his adepts, and I'm not sure it's been really worth it. You know, you could argue that some of the adepts sacrificing themselves have opened up opportunities for the oracles, particularly in the first game, and I could accept that as an argument, but otherwise they haven't been too impressive. And these 2 adepts did take the reserved stance around the creep as opposed to in it. They do still end up dying without contributing very much. Excellent defense from the Zerg player to only lose 2 drones. To the 2 adepts plus the oracle swooping in, this could have been much worse timed for Elazer. His 2 queens could still be moving their slow butts up this ramp. And then... or the 1 queen or whatever, and then there's no spore. But this case... queens were on point. Queens are still on point. As another attack off to the right side. ShoWTimE is going into triple Oracle 3rd base, just to make sure we cover our bases. Nothing weird's happening on the Protoss' side. And Elazer is once again going into a lair. No Evolution Chamber, no Roach Warren. Hey, that Ling-Nidus Swarm was pretty freaking effective. Is he just going to do the same thing again? Very late speed, but again, he got his gases so late as well. Yeah, his opener was very interesting. I don't want to speculate on what it might have meant. What it might have wanted to be, but it was like 15-15 basically, I think. And then, I don't know when he got his gases, but much later on. So it's not going to be the Ling-Nidus. It is a Roach Warren being added on. Gases as well. And ShoWTimE will get another macro game to test out his defense. He has gone into no Twilight Council. Actually, ShoWTimE going directly into a Robo and a Forge. Have seen him do this more recently. Actually, straight into a Colossus. The Roachborn Evolution Chamber, it looks like Elazer is going to be adding on. Oh, I did not expect that quick of an Infestation Pit, but I was going to say is going to be adding on Infestation Pit and going into that hive like he did in the first game. So much more of a later game setup, but with perhaps the ultimate goal still being aggressive. But this is a sub 6 minutes Infestation Pit, which is extraordinarily quick. He's going to be going in a fast hive for fast lurker upgrades. So Elazer has built up a reputation that is not wrong of being aggressive. He's built up an expectation in this best of 5 that he is aggressive, either by being aggressive in the later stages with Ling, Baneling, Roach, or with a good old-fashioned Nidus Ling all-in. And now might be playing off the expectation sets to play a greedy tech game. So it's not that it's, 5 bases, 90 drones greedy economically. It's technology greedy. And ShoWTimE might not be able to pick up on that. Oh, double hallucination, very important. The oracles might be a little shy about entering to that natural, but the double hallucination is not. It is literally what it is designed to do. And that is a very important scout right there. Now ShoWTimE actually has a good idea as to what his opponent is planning. What is ShoWTimE's reaction to witnessing that? I said he might be going to fast Colossus. He does have a robotics bay. But this is terrible for ShoWTimE, isn't it? ShoWTimE does not have the ability to be aggressive at all. Like, if he went Twilight Council first, he probably would already have charge. And he might be waiting on Storm and or Archons, but he'd have charge at the very least. But now it's, he doesn't even have charge. And even if he did, I guess Elazer can still afford enough roaches to defend a mediocre-sized army. Yeah, this is, no, Elazer has actually played ShoWTimE today like a fiddle. Hot damn. ShoWTimE, as I said, he scouted it, but he can't do anything about it. The most that he can do is just play a macro game as well. But then he's playing a macro game, which his 4th base is being denied. And he's playing a macro land-based game. Round base, what is this, Age of Empires? Against someone who's getting lurkers. And that's just not, that's falling into the trap, almost. It's clearly not a trap because he can see it coming. But it's falling into what's good for Elazer. There's just like no good option for ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE's best option is to play one heck of a defensive macro game, which is what he's usually good at. But, oh man, having to play out what is now a late game ZVP where your opponent is very quick to lurkers and you have 0 chance of moving on to Stargates, and you have no map presence. You are not out on the map attacking them, harassing them. You're at home hoping to God they don't kill you anytime soon. This should be one of the worst case scenarios, even for the wall. And ShoWTimE is obviously trying to build up an anti-lurker army. Lots of immortals on the way out. Disruptors can absolutely be a choice, but since the hive is already done and Vipers are so freaking effective, I can understand the hesitation. If you get the 6 disruptors, might actually be very, very nice to have, but yeah, and then can you actually afford them? Because 6 disruptors with 2 immortals, 2 archons, and a handful of storms might still be overwhelmed. I mean, we're talking about ShoWTimE investing into very slow building, high quality, low quantity types of armies that, if they're not looking for a second, can get overwhelmed. You don't storm initially, you don't disruptor initially, you're not gonna have a good time. Well, this is a bit of an awkward attack. He's actually gonna commit to it though. Okay, if that is Elazer's last line of defense, I would totally understand, but Elazer definitely had more army than that. So ShoWTimE kind of just let his army, it's like, oh my gosh, so much damage. The immortals didn't die. Good news. You're missing all of your legs and all of your phalanges, but you're not dead. I don't know. That was a bit of a weird one. That if it led to something else, that would have been probably fine, but it led to nothing. It led to Elazer rebuilding the lurkers and now going on the offense. And Elazer, by the way, has had the range for his lurkers and is now about to have his speed burrow as well, so he is fully set up to be on the offensive. ShoWTimE's supply looks totally even, looks totally fine. What's the big deal? Lurkers. Lurkers are a freaking big deal. I have witnessed some really cool ZVPs where lurkers are involved, and yet the Protoss does not just keel over and die. But is this one of them? I don't know about that one. The last one that I saw, there was a lot of playing around. I actually think it was a Geralt game, maybe. But there was a ton of playing around. You know, there was armies on the map for both players. There was 6 concaves and 6 surrounds. And ShoWTimE is, again, one of the worst scenarios for a Protoss. Entirely defensive on his side of the map. No harassment. Not a surround. I mean, at best, a concave against fully upgraded lurkers who do have +2 attack. It's not impossible for him to break this. It's going to be very, very messy. It's going to be bloody. A couple High Templars looking to jump on forward. Almost get caught, but not quite. It is actually Elazer who moves forward and is now going to move backwards because there really isn't a reason not to. Why take that fight when they have the concave? Move your lurkers with their speedy unburrow over to someplace nicer and hopefully the reinforcements as well. 2 additional lurkers on the front line do get caught. A nice little last-second grab before the Zealots lose their lives. And Elazer is looking low on that supply. I'm wondering why. He has 10 Hydras on the way. His larva is a huge issue. Hello. Larva? Yeah, he realized it as well. Macro hatchery is going down despite having 5 hatcheries. And what looks to be okay injects. Maybe not everywhere. Oh, no injects, no injects. Okay. Yep. His larva is a big problem. So that was a more important breakout than I was giving it credit to then. Because if Elazer has to back away, but he's reinforcing instantly, then the tug of war does not last very long. ShoWTimE goes, I'm free, and then boom, suddenly lurkers were back on the front lines. But it's taken just a crucial extra 20 seconds for Elazer to do that. And in those 20 seconds, ShoWTimE has fit in a Sleep Beacon, 2 carriers, and a 3rd Stargate. So there's hope here for the Protoss. Again, on their last life in this best of 5. 5th base is going to be denied. ShoWTimE's not desperate for it yet. Lurkers thus far not getting into the probe lines either. It looks like ShoWTimE was anticipating a second attack, but it really is all on the right side. And Elazer is going to have to think about dealing with late game. I think he must realize at this point that the momentum is not there. He did not overwhelm ShoWTimE's ground army. And so there should be carriers soon. But I still see no Spire. And if he plans on playing Viper Microbial Shroud things, then he should probably get that too. 1 carrier does not make an air toss army. The Hydras are taking out the Interceptors. And Elazer is kind of forcing the issue. He thinks he's found a great opportunity, but is it really all that great? 12 lurkers are pretty freaking nasty. But they are being pounced upon by Immortal, Carrier, Storm, Archon, or are they? Many of these last few lurkers getting a lot of very, very important last-second shots. It looked like ShoWTimE was starting to break through, but now perhaps overreaching. A couple of storms come down to barely save the Immortals from being completely trapped, and Elazer is going to have to back away. We also did have some harassments. 5, 6 drones went down. Not a super big deal, but something is better than nothing. Both their supplies remaining even after all of that hubbub. Very close to being completely broken on either side, I believe. If the Immortals were more scrunched up on the left, all of them are dead. Some of the ones on the right did manage to escape. A couple less storms, 2 or 3 fewer storms. Maybe Elazer actually gets those cracklings in and then just significant damage. But as it is, it's a wash. Elazer with a slightly bigger bank, but a potentially bigger problem, which is dealing with the increasing number of carriers. 1 or 2 carriers, like I said, the Interceptors will die to the Hydras, but now he's at 5 carriers, and +2 is about to finish as well. No Carapace upgrades on the Zerg's part. They went all attack upgrades, so these Interceptors are very effective. And Elazer is still not moving over to a Spire. Okay, just as I'm bringing it up, finally adds on that Spire. But now it's up to him to buy time. The game has reversed. And I think we actually get to slow down for a second as well. 5th base is on the way for ShoWTimE. Elazer waiting to threaten another base if he sees this army move out. And there you go, threatens the 4th. This might have been the 3rd, but it's not super important. Hydra is getting stormed, much more important. Lurkers dying 1 at a time, much more important. And Elazer, well, might have just revealed his hand. the goal there, I think, was more so to buy time than the actual take an engagement. And as soon as he takes an engagement and ShoWTimE realizes he's winning the engagement, he might initiate a counterattack. And the counterattack is I don't think Elazer is set up to defend against. His Spire is done. He has enough to build a lot of Corruptors, but he doesn't have the supply now as he's built up so many Hydras. And the Viper's gonna get some abducts. I don't know if they're actually gonna kill the carriers, though. At least one of them's gonna die. Another one barely escaping death. Some Hydras do lose their lives in return. Elazer now with 30 supply to fill up. What's it going to fill up with? More Hydras, more Lurkers. If that's the case, I would love to have seen Microbial Shroud, but rip that spell. Couple of Lurkers popping all the immortal shields, but not actually killing them, leaving the ground army of ShoWTimE as strong as ever. All the High Templars managing to survive as well, although just barely. Hatchery goes down, Elazer forced to evacuate, has other bases to move to, so it's not the worst news yet, but those Vipers are awfully close to death. Yeah. High Templars were right there, buddy. Quick heal on one of the Vipers will ensure its life, but it still needs to actually cast some spells, and so far not involved in the fight as the storms come down on Elazer's panicking Hydra army. This is getting down and dirty. Elazer's supply absolutely plummeting. Blinding Cloud on top of the ground army was excellent, but another storm seals the deal, and ShoWTimE will survive to make it to a game 4. I wasn't so confident with him. He's Lurkers against the ground army is getting a little scary. But not only did he initially defend as well as possible, very good setup to have that concave, Elazer's larva block really halted his momentum. I'm not saying that was a throw. I'm not saying that had he not done that, he would have won. But I think if he wasn't larva blocked, the aggression is far more consistent. And it's a little more difficult for ShoWTimE to get into his Stargate units. It's a little more difficult for his Stargate units to be accompanied by ground units because he's on a, his 5th base is even later. He's lost some probes on his 4th base, whatever it is. But instead, when he backed away, he had to really back away and completely stop all, even production for 20 seconds because he was waiting for the larva to pop. So I feel like there's a lot more potential in that Lurker game for Elazer. Didn't realize his full potential. I'm very familiar with this. You talking about Lambo? It's kind of funny, actually. You listen to Zergs, and their opinion of the Lurker is quite low. And I believe Lambo has even specifically, been angered by his own Lurkers, because he'll do it. This is what happens with a lot of pros, though, and I'm not blaming them, it's very understandable. Is that something won't work, and they'll be like, this sucks, I hate it. But they'll acknowledge that it works in certain situations. So, of course they'll still do it occasionally. But then when it doesn't work hard, and it's like, stupid units, I hate it. In the top left, putting a point on the board, he is ShoWTimE. Bottom right, it is Elazer. And in that case, the Lurkers did not look super good. But I think they had a lot of potential. For every 12 Lurkers getting stormed, surrounded, and killed, there's the heavy back and forth ZVP that completely ends all back and forth as soon as 12 Lurkers appear. So it is quite funny. It is quite interesting. ShoWTimE clearly not breaking from his expectation, traditional playstyle. Has gotten a point on the board, but still remains in his last life. Would now be the time to change it up? Probably not. I mean, he did change it up as far as the follow-up to the triple Oracle. He did go into Robo Bay first. And then didn't really use them for a very long time. In fact, I would say the Robo Bay was almost useless. Disruptors never really played a part, right? Colossus never appeared. Yeah. Yeah, they just like... As soon as he realized what Elazer was doing, he said, okay, no, I'm not going to go into these very vulnerable units to a single Viper. And I'm instead going to go into something that has a little more positioning advantage, I guess. You know, as long as I'm on my Nexus, on my shield batteries and cannons, and using the chokes that the map gives me, then I should be fine. And it's not like you would go for one Viper against someone going into High Templars and Storm. If you saw for a fact that they were going into Colossus or Disruptors, Elazer might have opted for 2 less Lurkers and 2 more Vipers. Maybe. But it was a very high immortal count, and taking 2 mortals out of the equation with a Viper Abduct would result still in 4 or 6 immortals being left over, which might not nearly be as impactful. Little Adept Scout in the main was hoping to grab a drone. So far, so good on the micro, though. So far. Loses a drone, but kills the Adept, so I'd say it's okay for the Zerg. No further Adept pressure as this one skedaddles. Realizing it doesn't really have a chance to do very much more, and Elazer is prepping for the inevitable Oracle. I don't think he actually scouted even the warp gate timing. It looks like his Overlord left. Or his Ling left, or whatever it was. But could be wrong. Point is, it is absolutely Oracle. He is very correct on that. And his Oracle defense in the beginning stages has been very good. We did see some lapse in defense as the second game went on. Elazer did start to take a lot of drone kills. Still end up winning that game, though. And then I think last game, the Adept Oracle pressure was certainly not all that impactful. And is it triple Oracle? So for ShoWTimE, what does he follow it up with? Is the Robo again? Is it Twilight Council? He's even gone Forge first into Robo usually afterwards. Elazer still has another game to give to a risky build. But not choosing to do anything extremely risky here. 4th base is on the way. And a good defense. A good defense overall. I guess while we have a little bit of time, we can go ahead and check out what the stats say for this. We do have Oracle Adept Harassment. Maybe this time. I just want an example of what I was talking about, just to say that I'm not a liar. Oftentimes, his Adepts have not dove into the natural. They've just been kept around here. This dive in might be one of the more promising ones. Nah. Compared to his previous attempts is what I was getting at, but I think this is about par for the course. 5 drones, but for all those Adepts... Oracle swoop in, though. They see the opportunity with only 1 queen to defend. The single Spore Crawler won't be able to take care of everything. A nice micro from ShoWTimE. There's the big drone number kills. 11 of them going down. However, Ling's on the backside. See the opportunity. Zealot gets warped in to try and protect that Adept, but it'll only last for so long as this Zealot is also a goner. Oracle, please help out here. 16 drones have gone down. 5 more went down before the recall occurred, and the Ling counter pressure is just not good enough. It does grab those last weak probes, so 6 probes, but 16 drones. Good lord. Those Oracles did way too much damage. Laser's going to be hurting after that one. +1 melee's on the way. Lair starts up, so I'm guessing there's also some mess up on the macro side, not just on the defense of his drones. Maybe he meant to get his gas a little bit faster. Maybe some more drones, so on and so forth. He's banking a little bit. Just the little things that happen, the indirect consequences to damage, as opposed to just the direct. As the Oracles continue to swoop by. ShoWTimE You know, he had that little panic emergency defense, but I don't think really took any repercussions from it. The loss of a couple of adepts and a zealot doesn't matter. I think what would have caused him to be a little more upset would be the loss of the pylon, for instance. And then if the entire probe line had died, that would have gone a long way to evening up the worker kills. But no, I think that was totally fine for ShoWTimE. More than happy to give up a couple of those beginning units after dealing with that much damage with the oracles. Double expand on the way for Elazer. These lings actually not in high enough numbers to tackle what was there, especially with a couple of good force fields. Overlord dies and the supply block is had, as the Elazer did have overlords on the way. It's not the worst supply block ever, but now is now losing 9 more drones. He did grab another oracle. In fact, 3 oracles have been killed in this game. Only 1 survives. ShoWTimE is on 6 gases. However, his intention right now is to go for an attack with stalkers. 10 gateways, +1 already done, and a warp prism is on the way. His amount of gas is quite high. Yeah, I'm not used to seeing this type of attack with 6 gases, but it will allow for a far easier transition. He might get a 4th base first and then a Temple Archives, but it might also depend on how this engagement's going to go. Lots of bank up here. ShoWTimE ready to warp in with that warp prism. Elazer, is he ready to defend? He's got 38 lings, no roaches, although some are about to pop. Nothing in position right now, and he's realizing a surround would have been lovely, but far too late to break down those rocks. And the queens will probably want to evacuate as well. It is clear that Elazer is making the tough decision to back away. Once again, supply block 2. 8 overlords on the way. Big surround on the stalkers, at least attempted to. Stalkers do have blink. Yeah, they go. Many of them will survive. Lings will also be able to escape, just barely. Ravagers aplenty on the way. 11 of them. But ShoWTimE is not stopping. He is not intimidated. In fact, he might even be able to jump on top of some of these Raptors. Preemptive force fields trying to lock in at least 3 of them. Corrosive Vials come down to break the force fields as well as hit some of those sentries. Elazer hoping to survive to bring this series to a close. ShoWTimE hoping to bring it to a game 5 as the Lings do jump on top of a lot of those weakened units on the front lines. All the sentries are gone. Many of the stalkers are injured. The warp prism still intact, with the supplies starting to very much favor Elazer. It was a very last-second defense, but just the right amount of lings, the ability to form all of those Ravagers at once finally kicked in to help him out, and now he is going to engage in the counterattack. ShoWTimE quickly slapping down everything he means to do while engaging, right, if he can. +2 attack, charge, Dark Shrine, Robotics Bay. Okay, more than you would usually do, actually, as he is a bit desperate to make up for basically lost time. If that attack doesn't work, it doesn't do significant damage to the Zerg player, then you gotta make up for a lot. And I would say that killing a base was not exactly significant damage. Elazer is looking for the counterattack, but breaking a defensive Protoss is tough stuff. Warp Prism, holy shit, that's not dead? Are we sure? Pretty sure this is a ghost I'm looking at. Good lord. 2 Immortals and a Warp Prism. Gonna try and kill more things. Please. Please no. Catchery is not going to be canceled. The Immortals might as well just be saved. I mean, please. Please. Warp Prism's getting a little shield back at least, but good lord. ShoWTimE, 4th base on the way, managed to survive the would-be counterattack, and now has all the technology that he started up. Charge will finish, +2 will finish, Disruptors are on the way. Dark Shrine might be usable by this actual dead Warp Prism. Hatchery was killed, not canceled as well, so ShoWTimE striking back. There was about a 20 to 30 second window in which I was completely panicked for ShoWTimE, especially with the Warp Prism almost going down, and now it seems to be okay. Everyone just take a chill pill, everyone just relax. Game's not anytime soon. The Elazer is back in his comfort zone. +2 melee, lots of banelings, nothing but attack upgrades. And his economy is situated despite the loss of that base. He's back on it, 76 drones. He is ready to tango. But ShoWTimE is also ready to defend. Takes 2 to tango, and ShoWTimE's totally down. He's ready. Shield battery finishes at a perfect timing to ensure no deaths here. And Elazer is more so looking at a distraction, perhaps. Big ol' army on the right side, only some lings on the left. ShoWTimE's gonna need far more units on this side than the other. And he does have a pretty good unit count, but I think the Disruptors are out of position. Stasis Trap might impact this. Looks like Elazer's more than aware that is a possibility. Stalkers looking the last second to blink forward, blink back, rather. Disruptors shooting forward, actually help kill an Archon, and will help kill the Nexus. And it looks like Nexus is gone no matter what anyways. Nexus falls, shield battery falls, many stalkers fall, corrosive biles hitting some of the units, but the blink forward aggressively trying to capture the Ravagers before they escape. ShoWTimE might have lost a decent number of units that were there, but he reinforced with all of the stalkers on the left, and that army is still rather large. Many probes have lost their lives. ShoWTimE once again almost all in, similar to, I believe that was game number 2. And Elazer is once again on the defense, trying to collect all these units here to actually mount a defense. But against Disruptor, Stalker with +2, it's going to be difficult. Banelings on the backside, mostly rolling into an Archon as drones are pulled desperately. Elazer supply not looking so hot compared to the Protosses. And I think ShoWTimE's attack might do the trick. It didn't in the previous game, but it might here right now. 11 more roaches on the way. Stalkers getting injured. Stalkers not protected, but it looks like they don't need protection. They're the only protection they need. The Stalker micro ability coming out very strong right now as the supplies even up. But there it is, 42 Lings. I think 42 Lings will absolutely make the difference. Elazer waiting for his larva to pop, might still be able to collect enough reinforcements to surround and demolish this army. This is not an anti-Ling army whatsoever. It needs Zealots, it needs Archons, it needs Storm. Here come the +2 Lings. The blink backwards into the Roach Ravager. The Disruptor's getting some good shots, but the Lings are just too damn good against the Stalkers. The 4 DTs, by the way, shout out to them. They're trying their best to save this game, but every last Stalker is going to fall. The Disruptor's taken out. The Overseer's taken out. I don't know if it's actually going to go well for Elazer now that his 4th base is killed, as well as his 5th. But Elazer does survive and will eventually replace an Overseer. This game is now crazy close. ShoWTimE, 7 workers ahead, but only 1 base mining effectively. Elazer, only 1 base mining effectively as well, I guess. Has a slightly bigger army supply, but is it that efficient? Not anymore. Against Stalkers, it was perfect. Against Archons, it sucks. Especially if the Archons are up against a shield battery. And I don't know what the best choice is for either player. Elazer maybe tries to macro out of this, but he's investing into Lings right now, so it's going to be a while yet. And for ShoWTimE, does he just go for another attack, or does he try to slow things down and get it to his 4th base again? I could see upsides and downsides for both options. 1 Archon still takes a lot of Lings to kill, even if the Lings have an upgrade. Also, that +1 shields kicking very well for the Archon specifically. In fact, without that +1 shields, I'm pretty sure the Lings would have taken down that Archon lickety-split. Elazer did rebuild his drone economy a little bit. He invested into a hatchery, which I think he will be able to move some drones over to, but not many. And he is going back and building up an army, realizing that his current army, his Ling-based army, cannot contest this many Archons. All it can do is buy time, look for run-bys. His roaches have got to become Ravagers, and they have to start picking off these Archons. These Archons get up nice and close to the Roach Ravager. It's dead. They need to keep their distance. The drones are once again evacuated. Lings go for a big surround on the 3rd base, but an overcharge cannon and a couple of DTs are going to ruin Elazer's chances to get some damage done, to buy some time. And this looks like it will be good enough. ShoWTimE with enough gas in the bank to build up 8 Archons. Certainly won't worry about Lings, and it can only worry so much about the Roach Ravager. As the corrosive biles come down, they don't hit very much. The Archons being juggled in the War Prism, but they are starting to fall. Elazer with a last-second defense yet again, but what is he defending for? What is going to happen after this? Nothing good. Nothing good at all. Elazer is going to be forced to a Game 5, despite his best defense possible. ShoWTimE, acting as the aggressor, is going to bring us to the final game of the Big Brain Bouts. Game 5. Pretty exciting stuff. I don't know if ShoWTimE didn't have as much gas bank as he did. Whatever that gas bank was, I wasn't really noticing. I was watching Lings killing Stalkers, but if he could only have made 3 or 4 Archons, then he doesn't have a good enough army to do that. And it would have been all too easy to misread that game for either player. But with 7 or 8, the only problem would have been being dragged back by the Ravagers. Because pure Archons do have a vulnerability. Well, they have many vulnerabilities. Lurkers would beat them, yes. But I meant more in the context of that game. In that game, it would have been Ravagers focus firing, pulling back, focus firing, pulling back. That would have been a little sketch. Links around plus bile. On Archons, it's not usually as effective. I mean, it's effective as far as effectiveness goes, I guess. I would say it's usually a worthwhile trade. But I mean, it's usually not the big wombo combo that is like links around on Stalkers and the Corrosive Bile, because the Archons are so fat. You're like, oh my god, the surround! The Archons are going to get demolished by the Corrosive Bile! And the Corrosive Bile hits 2 Archons out of 8, and you're like, oh no! In the top right, forced into a game 5, he is Elazer. In the bottom left, bring it to the game 5, he is ShoWTimE. He might overall be playing more of the macro game and wanting to be the defender, wanting to be the wall. But he is forced to make the tough decisions and go for the borderline all-in maneuvers, which he did in the last 2 series. He did actually start the aggression straight up last game. That is correct. I forgot about that. But many of the aggressive attacks, the actual moving out from ShoWTimE, has been due to some very complicated scenarios. He's lost Nexus, he's lost probes. He needs to take advantage of the opportunity Elazer has given him by over-dedicating, you know? He knows that he has to strike when the iron's hot, and he didn't get the opportunity in game 2. But for game 3 and 4, he did. And now it's the final game. I expect ShoWTimE will play rather standard. Elazer is going to change it up. ShoWTimE going for that Stalker attack really did surprise Elazer, but yet I didn't feel like that was the... I didn't feel like it was the main contributor to how that game went. It definitely contributed. The fact that Elazer was less than prepared from the get-go meant he lost his 4th. Yeah, his 5th wasn't up yet, I think. So, while he did defend and he did recover, it was obviously not as streamlined as a game as he was hoping for. Had he been totally prepared, obviously it's a very different situation. Adepts, Stargates, beautiful. ShoWTimE, doing ShoWTimE things. I say it's like a ShoWTimE, like I'm accusing him. Of course, right now for this matchup, this is 90% of games yet again. We've had map pools and metas in which a Twilight Council opener was like 50-50, I guess. Split Twilight Council, Stargate openers, but we're back to Stargate being the way. This is the way. And it's just the follow-up that can be a little more interesting. You can go for the faster Stalker attacks. You can go for the Charge Out Archon. You can go for a 3-base committal. You can go for Fast Storm. You can go up to 4 bases. You can go into Fast Fleet Beacon, which I brought up in an earlier series today. And while the earlier series might not be players who are leading the meta, I would say that Hero often leads metas, and Hero's going for these fast Fleet Beacon builds. So I don't know if ShoWTimE has seen them or has an opinion on them. It's very possible he's seen them and said, I think they only work in these very specific scenarios. That's usually the case when you talk about pros, talk to pros. But I'm just saying the post-Stargate's 3-base setup is far more interesting. There's a lot of options there. And so far, Elazer is just macroing. These Adepts being a little more troublesome, kind of. They're not anything important. They're going to kill off a hatchery, take some damage. But considering the previous games have been full of many hit it and quit it Adepts, they shade in and die, and they don't even do that much. Kind of prefer seeing the Adepts live. And they hit it and quit it in that phrase was hit the drones poorly and then quit life. They die. There's a lot of Adepts now going over to the left. Oh, nope. Only 5. I miscounted the Adepts. I miscounted the shades. Still, decent amounts if the Zerg player is underprepared. Some Lings, but mostly Queen defense right now. Adepts head into the natural. They see an opportunity yet again. They were wrong in many previous games, but it looks like here they're pretty correct. That shade distracting the Lings, in fact, so the Adepts can get right up nice and close to the drones. 10 of them will go down. Make that 11. Make that 12 if the focus fire was there. Oh, there it is. There it is. 12 drones go down, plus the Oracles in the natural. Elazer getting bopped by the early game harassments. It actually has felt, I mean, last game the Oracles got a lot of damage done as well. It's felt like the control over the Adept Oracle harassment has gotten a little worse as time goes on, which is not totally surprising, honestly. This is, you know, I was talking a lot about this in the Cannon Rush series, in which this early game aggression, there are technical ways of dealing with it. You can write down on paper how to ensure that this does not happen and tell people to follow the paper. But thankfully, StarCraft is a more complicated game than that. So Elazer knows how to defend. Some of the earlier games of the series, in fact, he made sure that they really didn't do anything. I think the first game was where the almost perfect Oracle defense happened. But it's kind of gotten worse. 18 drones go down. Adepts are still alive. Queens or Oracle's still alive. 4 of them as well. ShoWTimE is up to 6 gases. Robo did come down first, you know, after the Stargate. Robotics Bay on the way. No fear of a fast hive in this game, tell you what. So the Robotics Bay, I believe, will actually be used for, I would say, Colossus. Clearly, Elazer is going into a Ling-based composition and is also going into a rather desperate Ling all-in dedication. 50 drones, guys. 50 drones versus ShoWTimE's 70 probes. It's basically all in. All in forced by the 28 drones killed thanks to the Adept Oracle pressure. 10 Oracles, 10 Adepts did trade out for that, leaving ShoWTimE only on an Oracle defense. But a couple of static defensive structures, a couple of force fields, and ShoWTimE is controlling this counterattack like a freaking pro. A couple more force fields will be necessary. The Oracles are almost out of energy, and things are getting a little more questionable as time goes on, but another clutch force field. A couple of Zealots warped in for the pseudo wall on the top side, and Elazer's counterattack, which really is all in, guys, is not going to work. The overcharge pop, such patience being displayed here from ShoWTimE on that, and the Oracles will regain energy. Elazer's second attack, less likely to work than its first. ShoWTimE making that hold look easy breezy, and I guarantee you, many other Protosses would have screwed that up. Queens are here because it's all in. Why not? Everyone join the party. Should have brought drones. Drone pool for the win. Banelings coming in, trying to collect the lives of the Zealots as they are awfully clumped up, but a last-second split at least mitigates the damage. More Banelings had to be expended on the Zealots than anything else. And the pylon holds on strong as well, soaking up more pylons available, so shield battery and cannon still in play, probes properly protected, Oracles not regaining energy. They once again use it to help the defense, and the third base will go down. The Lings, Banelings, and Queens finally getting results from this attack. The third base kill might not be enough, however. Elazer still has to worry about the superior technology of his opponents and the powerful counterattack that could be underway. Elazer caught ShoWTimE as he was building up to his army, as he was building the charge lots, as he was building the Archons. So it looked to be relatively even as the armies engage each other. Now that things calm down, ShoWTimE has 9 gateways, Archon technology, Disruptor technology, and, you know, every many Zealots he can afford, basically. Also, clutch defense in the natural, I believe, happened while I was focusing elsewhere. I would like to see Colossus, but that's just me. That obviously is just me. ShoWTimE is much better. But I feel like 1 or 2 Colossus, something to defend against the mass links, could be useful. The problem with Disruptors is that when it comes down to a Ling-based composition, they often fire at their own army. Or miss. Like, they're much more likely to whiff as the Lings run on by. But that's also where the Archons come into play. So Colossus, I guess, are a little redundant if everything goes according to plan. Archons still have trouble with range, of course. And hey, speaking of range, the Colossus do have a bugged out range, so... get it while it's hot, right? ShoWTimE, not going to go for any form of counterattack. I saw the Warp Prism building and figured a counterattack was possible or just simply harassments. It looks like ShoWTimE has prioritized defense, getting his 4th base up, getting his economy sets, and getting a later attack that is almost guaranteed to win. Elazer is going to have time to build up again, which is good news for him. Because if he was still on 40 drones, obviously this game's over. But being on 67 drones is still not that great, especially as it has only been happening recently. He's only been getting to a good drone count recently. We did have a spike for his income because the 3rd Nexus did fall. ShoWTimE's probes weren't mining efficiently whatsoever, but now we're back to the... Now we're back on 4 bases, 77 probes, properly saturating all 8 gases as well. +1 shields on the way. Excellent addition. We go for this Archon-based army. And just a couple of Disruptors to help out, as probably their targets will be the roaches that Elazer has built. And the mass Archon army is well and truly in force. This has been the eventual plan every time, hasn't it? Well, I guess the last game got a bit screwy. Some of the games have gotten screwy. But, you know, the Robo first and the Robotics Bay quickly coming down had no place in that Lurker game. But it went into the Archons instead. And once again, although there are no outside factors to consider. Well, at this point in time, everything has calmed down. Of course, now things are calm. We still have the move over, and so basically just pure cotton ball. Only a couple of Robo units to help out, and rather insistent on the Immortal production, if anything, from the Robo. Warp Prism did finally get in on the action. It picks up the 2 Zealots, sorry, and we'll come back later on. Zealots also set up to the left side. Elazer did spot this and had queued over some units. They almost missed the Zealots completely, however. And it's just a little bit of scouting, a little bit of harassment. ShoWTimE still waiting for his perfect late-game Protoss army. +3 attack, 1 shield. Let's call it a dozen Archons. No Storm. Not bothering with that. And eventually a move across the map with this type of army will be very difficult to hold if you do not have Broodlords. Nice eyes there. Or the Overseer spotted it. Overseer spotted it. Looks like the Warp Prism died. Ran over the Queens. Zealots got dropped out, but a couple of well-placed Spine Crawlers stopped that from doing damage. Elazer, now at this point in time, banking quite a bit even. There's been a lot of not action happening. So not only did he recover his economy, 80 drones, 5 bases, but there have been very few trades. So plenty of bank to work with for the Zerg, but even the Protoss is starting to accrue a bank. Both of them are maxed out. ShoWTimE's army better in a very direct fight. And the Elazer is looking for at least 1 fight here. Catches a couple of Archons, a little more on their lonesome than you would hope for. It's not all of Elazer's army either, but it is starting to find some damage. Great force field to protect those probes on the right side. However, the left side still a little open. At the end of the day, 1 probe, 1 Baneling is all it takes, as +2 melee is done. 18 probes go down, but fortunately for ShoWTimE, this little hit squad to the right was miscontrolled. I think it was supposed to actually go close enough to the Nexus to kill it, and it stopped literally right here. So ShoWTimE thanking that little moments. He had time to reinforce and save his 5th base. Since his 3rd falls, he is once again on 4 bases. So yeah, I said in a direct fight, ShoWTimE's army is better, but it's the whole point, you know, good Zerg players will not be taking poor fight after poor fight. They're going to be opening up opportunities and killing Nexus, killing Economy, forcing the Protoss to throw their hands up in the air and go, screw it! I don't care anymore. And then hopefully by that point they have plenty of Remaxes and possibly even Broodlords, although certainly not in this game. Nowhere close to Broodlords. Elazer going for the max, 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 and max some more on Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager. And it might work. It's certainly the style of play that I think we identify with him, but ShoWTimE's defense is the style that we identify him with. So they're both playing at their strongest point. Elazer is going to need an attack to go well, and then a follow-up to an attack to go really well. To actually push down... Oh, so close to being perfectly timed there. Still gets a good number of Banelings. To push down the Protoss supply. And if the Protoss supply dips below 150, then Elazer might just be able to overwhelm, even if it's a very high-quality 150. Elazer... I mean, kind of hoping that ShoWTimE messes up. This is a very desperate scenario for the Zerg player. Despite all of the map taken, so much purple on the map, right? So much oppression. This is a better Protoss army. +3 attack, 1 shield, 12 Archons. Hey, I called the number correctly. Even a handful of Immortals added in. The Lings in the natural are going to be taken care of. As the Zealots worked in, Archon comes back, and ShoWTimE knows that he's got this game. He's got this comeback in the bag. A little bit of a split on the army would be awkward. Again, really, it's Elazer hoping that ShoWTimE messes up somehow, kills his own army, or lets his army get disjointed. But so far, so good for Demour. He's going to bring it back from the 0-2 deficit all the way to Game 5 for the Game 5 victory. ShoWTimE wins 3-2. Very exciting best of 5. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. And big thank you to BASILISK for putting this on and entrusting me with some awesome games today. And I think that's going to be it. I don't think I have too many obligations or shoutouts as whatnot. I will make sure to give the correct prediction. Many people bet on ShoWTimE. I'm sure many people were hoping for this reverse sweep. Trilgo, thank you for that Prime sub. And BASILISK, thank you very much for the 10 gifted subs. And thank you for allowing me to cast these excellent games. Best of 5, final match, living up to the hype, living up to the card, whatever fight term you want to use. And chat, thanks for being awesome. Bertanik, thank you for the Prime sub. I thank you to chat for being so awesome, for accepting me with grace to replace Roddy for the week. He is attending a wedding of his very good friends, and we'll be back, I believe, next week. The week after, I have no idea, actually. As many of you know, Gamers 8 is coming up. If you didn't know, now you do. But that's all I can say. I have no further information. I just know that Roddy will be back. He's still in charge of the Big Brain Bouts and all that good stuff, so no concern. Thank you guys for being awesome. Thank you for all the subs, resubs, and the gigantic donation. I do have to thank... here we go. I thank Sloza once more for $100 in my pocket. You know where that's going? That's going into the moving fee. That goes into me buying something cool for the house. That goes directly into cat climber wall things. I'm gonna get those what are they called? Like the wall mounts? Yeah. You can see cats all around here. Anyways, thanks, guys. And thank you more so. We got, here we go. Bertanique, Kilo Alpha India Sierra Tango. Wow, thank you for that Prime sub. And OG Quasi for the gifted sub. We enjoyed the casting of the episode again. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think everything ran fairly well for it being a little last second, and for me certainly being last second setup. This is the first official broadcast from the house in which I will preside for many years at the very least. So it's clearly not done yet, but hopefully it'll get cooler. I thank you guys for watching. Thank you to BASILISK for putting this on, getting me to cast it, and putting up so much great prize money for these excellent players. Making sure to pay out to the winner as well as to the loser. The main event was 200 buccarinos. I believe it was 150-50 for the splits. Thank you, Tired Universe, for the 420. blaze it. And that'll be that. Let's go ahead and end with some chill music and find someone to host up. This has been the Basilisk Big Brain Bouts. If you missed it, they will be on the VOD on this Twitch channel, but I believe also they do upload to their YouTube if you guys did not know. So go check them out. I think that's it. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. A wonderful rest of your Friday, wherever you are. And I will see you back on this channel next week for my typical scheduled programming. And Roddy will, of course, be back on his stream very soon as well. Bye, guys.